Now, when you just want a well-built, off-the-rack, midweight survival knife, I've always felt that the SE6 design brings so much to the table. So at first glance, aside from the Magnacut steel option on the AK 6.5 from Architect Knives, you may think to yourself, aside from premium steel, they're basically going to perform the same. And that is actually not at all the case. And so in today's video, not only are we going to be unpacking what the AK 6.5 brings to the table and differentiates itself from a tried and true classic, we're going to be unpacking what the concept of a midweight survival knife even is, what to look for, including the pros and cons to having a choil on your midweight survival knife versus not, as well as what different sheath material bring to the table when you are transporting a midweight survival knife, and so much more. So I've been really looking forward to doing this deep dive into the concept of a midweight survival knife. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm Aaron. This is Gideonstactical. Let's dive in. Now, right out of the gate, you may think I'm going to dive into the Magnacut and 1095 and how they differentiate, and that's the most important thing, but you would actually be wrong. Because before we look at any type of steel, you have to consider the edge geometry and grind on your midweight survival knife. And that oftentimes affects performance more than any type of steel that is chosen in the design. And the SE6 has always sported a full flat grind on that over 6-inch blade. What that means is from edge to spine, it is a continuous edge geometry. There's no secondary transition. What that means and what the benefit to a grind like this is slicing. You have a thinner edge down where you contact your material, and you're able to slice through material very easily. So food prep, carving, cordage, that type of stuff, the SE6 outperforms many other blades in this similar size range at 3/16 because of the full flat grind. But because it has that thinner edge, and because this is designed as a survival knife to potentially be put through a lot of heavy impact use like chopping, batoning, and just hard-hitting stuff, I have always felt that this was actually the wrong grind for this knife, and that the high saber or flat grind on the AK 6.5 is actually the better choice for most applications of a midweight survival knife because it's more durable. You have that first grind right here, but then it stops and transitions to a completely flat spine portion, meaning that the overall edge geometry may be a little bit wider. So we could argue the SE6 will be a finer cutting instrument. Particularly, I noticed it like food prep. You will see a little bit better performance with feather sticking and all the other stuff. I didn't really see any difference in its ability to out carve or out feather stick the 6.5, the AK. With that grind, the benefit to this saber grind is that because it is slightly broader, it's able to handle heavy impact like chopping and batoning. I found that saber or flat grinds take out more meat and don't get stuck as easily as full flat when chopping, as well as with batoning, they seem to split wood easier and quicker in that way. And even when it comes to tip strength, even though the SE6 is very durable, don't get me wrong, you have 3/16 all the way through, and that stays consistently all the way to that tip transition, and the tip is very strong and durable on this AK 6.5, whereas with the full flat, it has to taper sooner and get thinner sooner to transition to the tip. And so for me personally, if we're heading out on an outdoor adventure, you strip off all the markings, and you threw both of these down and told me they were made out of the exact same steel, I would choose whichever version had the saber grind over the full flat. But that's me and my mileage. Leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts between full flat and saber grinds on midweight survival knives. Now, SE Knives has a legendary lifetime warranty on their blades, but Architect Knives is also sporting a industry-leading unconditional transferable warranty. If you break it, we'll either refund it or replace it and pay for shipping, adding a level of value to the Architect series as well. Now, we have so much more to unpack in this concept, especially the choilless midweight survival knife theory versus the choiled theory. So we're going to unpack that. I'm really looking forward to that portion to break down with you. But I know a lot of you are here watching this video because you're curious about the 6.5 in Magnacut? Well, there is a limited batch dropping on October 25th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So I will have a link in the description box below this video, as well as I'll do a repost with the link that will take you over to the site as soon as it drops. What's really cool is I've been able to score a 10% off promo code that's embedded in the link. So when you click it, you build out your knife, and then you check out, it's going to automatically take off 10% from your purchase, just saving you guys a little extra scratch, which is pretty cool. And you can use that site-wide over at the Architect site, so that if the 6.5 really isn't your thing, but you want to maybe build out another one, you can save yourself some scratch on that. And I do appreciate Architect Knives sending this model over to me. They did not sponsor this video in any way, shape, or form. I requested this model, built this version out, and I have an affiliate code with them. That's it. That's all I got, or link, So you may be asking yourself, though, what does a 6.5-inch Magnacut, all American made, White River knives of the OEMs, Rockwell 62, blade, what's that really going to cost me? Like $300-$400? You would be surprised. I actually have the pricing sheet right here. You can pause it and take a screenshot. So for a basic setup like this, and we're going to get into all the customization. If you're not, and I forgot, if you're not familiar with Architect Knives, the whole idea is the template is the same. You can choose all types of different steels. They do batches, so there's a limited run, of Magnacut currently. I think 3V is also, or excuse me, S35VN is also available currently, and 1095. Sometimes there's 3V, so it just depends on what's available. So you pick your steel, then you can pick G10 or micarta, and we're going to get in all that. And I know this looks like an SE6 handle, but it's actually a little bit different. You can choose leather Kydex and get in all that, but you can build it out, trick it out how you want. A basic build like this, Magnacut blade, handle scale, and a sheath with no backer, that costs $260 before my 10% off promo code. So with the promo code, like we're talking like what, $240 basically, and then if you trick it out a little bit more, it might be a little bit more expensive. That is one of the cheapest, if not like the cheapest, American-made Magnacut steel blades in this size range that you're gonna find currently at the end of 2024. So I mean, it's a wild value when you really start to look at it. Now, the high carbon 1095 steel that ESEE uses is excellent for a survival knife. It is easy to resharpen, it is tough, and holds a decent edge. Everything you're looking for in a survival situation. So how does Magnacut stack up to that? Is it really a good survival knife steel, if you will, for the type of task you're going to put this type of knife through? Well, it is a stainless steel, very rust resistant. I have dunked a Magnacut steel blade in the Gulf of Mexico and had no rust spots. I've had dozens now, so you don't have to maintain it from rust and put like sprayed on coatings and oil it and stuff. You don't have to do that type of maintenance with Magnacut. And at a Rockwell of 62, which I think is ideal for this type of scenario, what you're going to find is that it is going to be tougher than 1095. I know that's hard to believe for some of you, but I actually want to give a shout out to Big Brown Bear on YouTube. You can go check out his video. I'll have a link in the description as well. Right when Magnacut was coming onto the market, he took an SE6 and a Magnacut steel fixed blade, and he pounded them both through a nail. And the ESEE got all kinds of damage, really jacked up the blade when he did that, and the Magnacut barely even flinched. And he had to put a ton of effort back into reprofiling, putting the edge back on the ESEE, and barely had to do anything to the Magnacut, and it was ready to rock and roll. So for impact, chopping, batoning, we actually tested this summer the AK8, which is just the big brother to the 6.5, all summer long. I hung 55 pounds off of that thing, torque testing, baton and chopping, zero issues with that blade. And I just recently got this one, and through all the testing I put this through, exactly, and all the Magnacut I've used. So on toughness, durability for a survival knife steel, I think is awesome. It has absolutely blown me away, and I've been very pleased with that. Edge retention is good, far and away going to surpass 1095. Even 3V, it's going to hold its edge a little longer than, say, 3V steel. 3V will be more impact resistant, so that's good if you're just super brutal on your blades. But when we look at those features, that's something that you're, are probably looking for. Now, it won't hold its edge like LMAX or M390. Those will hold their edge longer, but I would argue that they're not quite as durable as Magnacut. And then finally, we come to field sharpening. You got to be able to field sharpen your blades and make sure that they hold their edge, even though it's going to take a long time for this to need, an actual putting a new edge on it. And this is a Sharpal. I just recently got the whole setup, goes into the handle, has several different rod strops, all kinds of stuff. What I have personally found is that this sharpens up about as easy as S35VN, which is not that difficult. Obviously, you're going to have to put in a little bit more elbow grease than 1095. You can look at 1095 and it'll resharpen itself. But with what I've found is like some basic stropping or a ceramic rod every once in a while is more than enough to keep Magnacut honed. And if you were out there and you know, hit a rock or stump, you know, this knot in a stump, something like that, what you would expect 1095 to actually have some damage, you're going to find very minimal damage in my experience. Your mileage may vary compared to the 1095. So it just means less work all overall with that. But if you're just a 1095 fan for either value or you're just happy with the way that steel performs, these are also available in 1095, and the OEM is Tops Knives. And I know you guys are always curious about the different gear and apparel I'm wearing and using in the videos, and I know I'm going to get questions about, hey, what type of flannels are you wearing? So I'll just address it now. These are actually LA Police Gear core flannels that I recently got, and I'm really digging them. You've seen them in this video, a couple other videos, and what I like about them is that the cut is fit to me. You know, it's a little bit, it's not baggy, which I appreciate. They're buttoned down so you can pop them open really quick if you need to get to like a concealed carry. Lots of different color options. The sleeve length is good for my longer arms, and the cuffs are button snapped as well. Great value. And even for those of you who are in warmer climates, they have a couple lightweight short sleeve versions if you like kind of, you know, plaid colors, but it doesn't really make sense to wear like a heavier plaid shirt. The weight is perfect for here in Colorado in the fall to either layer with or just wear like I'm doing today. And so I'll have a link in the description box below, as well as popping up right here along with my 10% off promo code. So if you guys are interested, you can hop on over and check those out, and do appreciate LA Police Gear being a regular sponsor here at the channel. Now, how you transport your survival knife is very important and will definitely affect your overall experience. And thankfully, Architect Knives offers both leather and Kydex. Now, the leather, and this is what the leather sheath is going to look like on most of their models. You get double stitching, you get a thigh lashing, you can get them with or without fire steel loops, you can get them with or without the dangler, and you can also choose between right and left carry. And this one happens to be an AK 4.5 is what this particular one is rocking there. Now, this is what I've found, and a lot of this is, you know, experience, but also preference. And so you have to determine for yourself what your preference is. Leather sheaths I found are excellent if you are the type of person that likes to carry your survival knife on your hip all day. If you are an all-day carry type of person, and you're going to be carrying it around your property, you like trekking with it and having it that accessible, and maybe not in your pack, and you're, you know, at the campsite, whatever, leather is just more forgiving. It's a little more flexible. It tends to be a little quieter, and I actually have grown to really appreciate it when I carry a tool, a fixed blade, all day. The downside is really in lashing options. You don't have a lot of lashing options. It's usually just like run it through a belt. You know, that's about it. And durability. There is a potential to cut, nick, punch through leather, and if you accidentally were to leave it outside your tent overnight and it gets rained on or something like that, it can be a huge headache. You know, you can lose tension. It just becomes a big problem. Retain moisture, all of that, if you're in high humid or wet environments. So that's the trade-off with leather. Now, on the flip side, Kydex is a lot more forgiving in its carrying ability. Now, the Kydex sheaths that come on Architect knives are mind-blowing. Some of the best around. You get pancake design, and for particularly larger blades, I don't mind pancake, and I kind of prefer it because it gives you more lashing. So tons of lashing points that will line up with Blade Tech locks, Molly locks, and all of those are on the site, you know, and stuff like that. Drainage hole, excellent thumb ramp, relatively quiet, good tension right there. And the best part is it has a tension screw right there, so when it's down, you have the ability to release, but then when you lock it in, if you're transporting it either upside down or in a pack, then you're not going to lose it, and it's nice and locked in. The downside is carryability on your like belt. You know, it's just rigid, it slaps around, sometimes it's kind of clanky and noisy that some people just don't like. And potentially a hybrid kind of best scenario is you could get one of their leather backers, which is what I usually do on the larger blades, and they just line up perfectly. You know, you just screw them in and then you attach it to your belt. You get some of that flexibility that a leather sheath has, and this one has like a fire steel loop. So anyway, those are just options and just food for thought for you to think about. So if you don't really carry your fixed blades on your belt for an extended period of time, you more like keep it around camp, well, Kydex might be the way to go, and you're looking for more lashing. If you tend to be the person that wants it right there in your hip 24/7, leather might be actually more enjoyable. But leave a comment and let me know your preference between leather and Kydex when you carry your survival knives. Now, if you're looking at the AK handles and you say to yourself, that looks almost identical in profile to the SE6 and SE5 handles, you wouldn't be wrong. Since Architect Knives was birthed out of the Knife Connection, which has offered, I believe in the past, I don't know if they're still doing it, a knife builder where you could build out SE6s and customize handle scales. And that's kind of what birthed the whole Architect line. The only difference that you're really going to find then in this model, the AK 6.5, the 8, and the 5 will all have this same profile, is that right here on the neck of the SE6, right behind that bolt, is 0.7 on the thickness. Well, these are 0.8. So who doesn't like a little extra girth when they can have it? And these give you just a little extra girth around the neck, filling out your hand really nicely. And these handles are ideally designed, rounded, contoured, which is what you want with a survival knife. And you're going to get options with their knife builder for both G10 and micarta. G10 is more impervious to water and moisture, blood, guts. If you're using it as a hunting knife, that type of stuff, G10 is probably the way to go. If you like a more clothy, tactile feel, micarta is probably the way to go. It will actually get tackier the wetter it gets, but it does absorb those moisture, materials, blood, guts, or water. So it really will depend on your environment, and there are dozens of different color combinations that you can do on the Knife Builder site. The knife is skeletonized underneath, no problem. I've never had a knife break in the handle. I've always had, if a knife is ever snapped, it's either the tip or kind of like in the first third of the knife. We have a balance point right there over the guard. We've got that exposed pommel where it says USA made right there, so you can do pounding. Now, it has a gradual bird beak, which means that without a lanyard, you can get some light, wrist flicks in and, shape wood or delimb something maybe as thick as your pinky. But if you really are going to want to get the full power of the knife, then you're definitely going to want a lanyard, and do the loop over. That's where you put your thumb through and roll over. And then you can get the full power, full energy, and you're not worried about the knife flying across the campsite and sticking in a stump or a friend. Now, all of those things are all good and what you want. I love full tang construction that is exposed or exposed tang for a survival knife. Now, this does have jimping right here that when powder coated really isn't an issue, but because it's exposed with that tumble finish, it can be a little aggressive. When I don't use the choil and I'm doing like a push cut, you feel it, it's there, it's not really that bad. If I start doing like heavy push cuts to try and make a feather stick, it definitely is something that bites in a little bit. Not as bad as like a tops jimping, but it's definitely there and noticeable. Now, the nice thing is if I'm just back here, I usually just do it in a hammer grip, so it's not really noticeable. And then if I do a choil, I bypass it completely and don't engage with the jimping. So it's mostly aesthetic. I don't think the knife even needs jimping. It definitely has the the grip and the cut in to keep you in place, but it is there, and just to be something to be aware of. And one of the very small nitpicks I can find in the design overall. And that leads us into the home stretch. No choil versus choil on these type of knives. Now, this is the AK 5.5. It's about 5.3 inches overall cutting edge. It is going to be thinner at 5/32. An excellent. I would put this in camp knife. Could be a survival knife. Now, the benefit to something like this not having a choil is that I have my fingers wrapped around the handle scale right there. The blade is really nice and close to my finger, and I'm able to better manipulate the tool in comfort for a longer period of time. So for carving extended periods of time, I prefer knives without choils. And with a few exceptions, knives under 5 inches don't need a choil. That's why I've never really been a big fan of like the SE3 and SE4. They have these dedicated choils, but I just think they're unnecessary. Now, the downside to that is that you have a shorter overall blade. Think of like a shorter baseball bat, means that there's less inertia connecting in on whatever chop that you might be doing, and you don't have quite as much reach with that, and they usually will weigh a little bit less. This knife comes in at about 10 ounces, and this one has a cutting edge that's a little bit longer of like 6 inches with like almost, you know, like 6 point, I can't remember, 6.7, 6.8, something like that. Cutting edge, 6.5, I don't know. It's over 6 inches. The difference with a choiled knife is you get that extra length, giving you more inertia, better chopping power. So if you think you're going to be chopping quite a bit with your survival knife, and that's what you expect out of it, you're going to probably want to go with a choiled knife because it's going to add a little bit of extra weight. This is 13 ounces, again, versus the 10. So you're going to have a little bit extra weight, and you just get extra reach to be able to chop and or pierce if you needed to. And the reason that I like having a choil on a knife that starts to go over 5 inches is that it then allows me to get up and move the balance point forward, getting me more control over the longer blades. So blades over 6 inches, I prefer to have a choil on, and it will give me more power with the chopping. So not that the 5.5 can't be used as a survival knife, but I view it more as a camp knife or large bushcraft knife, whereas I view the 6.5 and the AK8 as true survival knives. But I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. Do you like choils on your larger knives or not? And in conclusion, I am not saying that the SE6 is a bad knife. If you just want an off-the-shelf, run-of-the-mill, one-and-done, American-made survival knife, it's gonna be awesome. I still would absolutely recommend it to you, and I'll have links below to some of the affiliate networks I partner with some of my favorite patterns and, you know, things like that. And for under 150 bucks currently, you'll get an amazing American-made survival knife. But if you like a lot of choices in customizing handle scales, sheath options, currently 4 different steels when available to choose from, and you understand and kind of agree with that saber grind or flat grind versus full flat grind concept, well, the AK 6.5 takes what the SE6 brings to the table and builds upon that, and in my opinion, just kind of makes it better. So guys, that's me, that's my mileage. I hope that this video has been fun and entertaining, giving you data, giving you food for thought to help you consider the survival knife concept in general and what to look for, and whether or not the AK 6.5, SE6, or something else altogether is what you're looking for. Appreciate you guys hanging. Check out the other video popping up. Subscribe if you haven't. Until next time, always remember to stay equipped, stay prepared, and I'll see you out there.